Hello and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio with me, Stuart Thompson. Happy New Year. Is it too late to say that? Probably is. It's the 18th of January. So it's been a busy month, as you can imagine, being a gym and a personal trainer. Last episode, we had a good friend of the show, Warren Nugent, on, and we had a really good time. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's probably too late because, well, Christmas is over for one thing. But in the show, this is a show, I kind of hinted at it in the last episode. I didn't want to get into it then because it is a bit of a rant. I'm going to try and not make it a rant. I'm going to try and lay out my thinking and lay out the context for what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking it, so it doesn't come across as a mindless, senseless rant. It's not what anybody needs to hear, is it really? But this episode is called Influencers for Chronic Illness. Bit of a provocative title, bit of clickbaity. Well, I'll let you decide. But I'm not sure whether you've noticed it or not, but over the last number of years, as influencing on the internet has become its own industry, dietitians and doctors have started to jump into it, among other professions. Now, before it sounds like I'm attacking these professions outright or blanket banning them or blanket casting this over them. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be influencers. I'm a big advocate of free speech, as you should know if you know me or you know the show. I would go as far as to say that I am okay with what is now being called hate speech. That sounds maybe extreme in 2024, but because in a nutshell, the problem I see with banning certain words or certain, even certain sentences or whatever, or policing people's speech, is it drives people who are racist or bigoted or whatever into the shadows. It doesn't stop it. It just makes them go underground, and then it means that they're thinking it, and you're probably surrounding yourself with those people, but you don't know that that's what they're like because they can't out themselves. I would much rather know what somebody's thinking by letting them say it than banning it and making it seem like they can't say it out loud. You can deal with your hurt feelings after that. But yeah, I'd much rather know what sort of person I'm dealing with, and then we can know by the words they use, how they say it out loud. We can know that much better. We can't know somebody's thoughts, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm also not a fan of banning disinformation or misinformation, as the phrase has been coined in the last number of years. First of all, the question is, who is the authority whenever it comes to what is true and what is not? Who decides? Is it the BBC? Is it the government? Is it me? Who is it? Is it the state? Is it the European Union? Is it the whoever? Is it the UN? Because all of these governmental bodies have never been wrong before, right? Never gotten anything wrong. Or is it the loudest voices? Is it whoever's got the biggest marketing budget? Who has the monopoly on what is true is the question. That's the problem I have with disinformation or misinformation or banning things because of that reason. The second issue, and this is all groundwork for what we're going to get into, the second issue I see is that everyone has their own views and opinions. If two people are witnesses to the exact same event, even with the best intentions in the world, they will probably give slightly different accounts of the same event to a greater or lesser extent. One will maybe leave things out, and the other maybe add certain things in. One will add extra details that are maybe unnecessary that you would see if you're listening to it, whereas I might think they're really important. And this is even with the best intentions in the world and with absolutely no agenda or no kind of pre-narrative they've been told to give it. So imagine if someone has an agenda. Can you imagine how different accounts of the same event could possibly be, or the same evidence? And so I guess we have the modern news industry, and we saw this in 2020 and 2021, especially when most news agencies didn't want the whole charade to end. They were loving people that were locked up in their houses. They were loving people's businesses shut down. They were loving the whole thing because everybody's eyeballs 24/7 were glued to the news. They were glued to their phones. They were getting clicks. They were getting ratings. And all the revenue in the meantime was going through the roof. They've never been more popular, right? So of course they didn't want it to end. Of course they wanted it to continue as long as possible. But from a scientific point of view, I think free speech is really, really important, because otherwise the consensus would be that the earth is flat, and we'd be going around burning anybody who said anything to the contrary, because that was the predominant view at one stage. And if you are a flat earther listening to this, again, you're entitled to your opinion. Nobody's probably going to come after you because it's not a really damaging thought to have. But if you're a flat earther, all the best to you. We'd also still be draining blood from sick people because that's what made them better back in the good old days. But this was all the scientific consensus. This is what the experts said of the day. I believe it happened to George Washington. They thought, he's sick. I know. We'll drain his blood. That'll fix it. And he died. He essentially died. But that was the common thing to do back in the day. So whenever differing voices are silenced, science ceases to exist. Essentially, it could even be argued that the peer review process has been a massive step back in the scientific process. And this is not just my original thought. This is something which has been tossed around for quite a while now. Just because me and my friends agree on something doesn't make it true. No matter how well educated we are, no matter how much of an expert we are on a certain thing, because we believe it doesn't make it true. If you want to look further into this whole idea, check out the Broken Science Initiative. It's from the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman. Very, very intelligent man, but he has found for many years issues with the scientific process, especially in nutrition science, medical science, all of those things. Repeatability, if you want a bit of a spoiler, is what is important. If you can repeat something, if you can replicate it, and if you can't, how worthwhile or how beneficial was your study in the first place? So, the next question. Oh no. I think my computer shut down. Oh, we're still going. Don't know what happened there. Hopefully you're still with me. But yeah, back to the point of the show. Now that we've underpinned it with some context, before I go into it again, this isn't a direct attack on dietitians as a profession or doctors or personal trainers or coaches. But I do want to point something out so that you're aware of it, and then you can think about it for yourself. And you're free to disagree with me, free speech and all that. I've just went on a rant about that. But over the last 15 or 20 years, and probably before it, there was a big rise in the popularity of diets with names attached to them, right? So Atkins and Paleo, Keto, Caveman, South Beach, Zone, blah, blah, blah. There's loads more of them. And many of them involved reducing or cutting out refined carbohydrates, sugar, bread, that sort of thing. And everybody knows somebody who lost weight on these or got into some sort of shape. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody found it easy to do those things, but that's a different conversation. But the whole idea was that cutting out bread or cutting out carbohydrates was the key, regardless of the carbohydrate source. Or further still, some people got the idea that you couldn't lose weight unless you cut out carbs or bread. Now, time and time again, it has been shown that you can lose weight by being in a calorie deficit. So, consuming less energy than your body uses for a period of time. Everybody from bodybuilders to anorexia patients, prisoners of war, the famine victims have demonstrated this. Going a little bit dark there, but giving you extreme examples. But that's how it works. Energy in, energy out. Now, in recent years, there's been a massive trend toward emphasizing this phenomenon, focusing just on calories in, calories out, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But what I have noticed has been a swing almost too far the other way, to the point where dietitians and nutritionists and PTs with massive followings on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, they're actively encouraging their followers to indulge in refined carbohydrates, in processed sugar, in alcohol as part of their normal diet. Like encouraging them to include it in their diet intentionally. And in fact, this might not seem that shocking to you because you're so used to it by now. I'm so used to it by now. In fact, whenever I see old posts that I put up like 5 or 6 years ago when I first started doing this full time, I happily told people to eat chocolate or eat whatever they wanted because they could still lose weight as long as they were in a calorie deficit. I've even told people you can still, if you drink alcohol, you can still drink alcohol and get into shape or lose weight because as long as you're in a calorie deficit. So what's the issue? What's changed? Why was I wrong to do that, or do I think I was wrong to do that now? Well, whenever we understand the scale of our health problems in the UK, in Ireland, in the USA, in the West in general, we can more clearly see the issue. Back in 2020 and 2021, when we all got scared of this new virus that came along, when we looked at the cold, hard statistics and take all of our emotion out of it, because there's a lot of emotion attached to every decision that was made at the time, There's a lot of coercion. But whenever we look at the statistics, whenever we look at the data, the vast majority of the people who died with the disease did not die from the disease. That is undeniable. Freedom of information requests are a wonderful thing, and that has been shown. The vast majority, and I'm not going to use exact percentages because no one ever agrees on the exact numbers, and that just makes my point void and null, but the vast majority were either smokers, they lived with smokers, or were over the average life expectancy threshold, or had one or more serious comorbidities, obesity being the common theme throughout all of it, right? So we've got massive problems, right? A new virus comes along and the whole country shuts, the whole world shuts down. It's not just, like, especially in the West, but those common things run throughout those who are vulnerable and those who succumbed with the illness. Dr. Peter Attia, he's got quite popular in the last few years. He's got a book out, I believe it's called Outlive, if memory serves me right. But he's lots and lots of stuff online, really, really good. Listen to the audiobook, actually, is really good. But he talks about the 4 horsemen of chronic disease, and he outlines them as atherosclerotic disease, comprised of cardiovascular disease and cerebrovascular disease. Number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is neurodegenerative disease. And Alzheimer's disease is the most common. And then number 4, foundational disease. So this is basically a spectrum of everything from hyperinsulinemia to insulin resistance to fatty liver disease to type 2 diabetes. Now, these are all linked in some shape or form. That's kind of the point of his book. Obesity, however, is a common theme throughout most of them due to the knock-on effects it has on so many bodily processes. But then when we understand just how addicted we are to added sugar in the West, it makes it all the more bizarre that dietitians, nutritionists, personal trainers, and doctors, not all of them, but some of them, are actively encouraging people to include processed sugar in their diet. And given what we know about added sugar and its impact on the human body, it's not a massive stretch to compare it to smoking. And before anybody says anything, no, having an orange or an apple is not the same as the white stuff you put in your tea or your coffee, or the stuff that's included in your biscuits and your cake. It's not the same. It's definitely not the same. The impact is not the same on the human body, short term or long term. So imagine you told your GP, imagine your GP telling you that it's okay if you want to smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes a day as part of a healthy diet. If it makes you feel good, I mean, that's an important part of overall health, right? Our mental health is important after all. So smoking 1 or 2 cigarettes a day that's okay. That's fine. Or imagine you're saying to a heroin addict, a bit more of an extreme example perhaps, but you'll see my point, hopefully. You know what? That consumption of heroin isn't good for you, right? You might want to think about cutting it back a wee bit to a more reasonable amount. Instead of shooting up 6 times a day, I recommend you cut it back to maybe once or twice, maybe twice on the weekends. It will be much better for your health than 6 times a day. Imagine saying that. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? It sounds bonkers, because it is. These are trusted professionals whose job is to advise patients and clients on improving their health. It's not to win their favor. It's not to make them more likable. And they shouldn't be trying to do that by encouraging their unhealthy habits or facilitating them and getting away with what they can before the onset of disease or premature death. But this is similar to what these guys are doing on social media. Now, obviously it's a more extreme and a more kind of short-term example I'm giving you, because obviously drugs can have a really catastrophic event very, very quickly. It's maybe a longer-term thing. And we're going to talk about some of the implications a little bit later on. But comforting you and I in our addictions and our unhealthy habits, that's what these guys are doing. And maybe you think I'm being too extreme. Maybe I am. I mean, whenever you draw out a comparison to heroin, it probably is a bit of an extreme example. I'll give you that. But maybe I'm not being that extreme. Maybe you think that added sugar isn't an addiction. So let's see. I want you to go without it for, let's say, 6 months. Or better still, let's not even put a time frame on it. Let's just say indefinitely. Could you do it? And I don't mean fruit, I don't mean honey. I mean added sugar. I mean the white stuff. I mean corn syrup. I mean artificial sweeteners, ultra-processed sugars. I mean the stuff they put in cakes, in biscuits, in all the junk foods that you look around in the shops. That's the stuff I'm talking about. If you think you could you're not addicted to it, then I want you to prove it to me. Show me, and more importantly, show yourself that you aren't addicted to it. And don't just say, no, but I like it. It's okay because I like it. Heroin addicts probably like heroin, and smokers probably like smoking. Not all of them, but some of them. So don't buy it. Don't have it in the house. Say no to it whenever you're at work, you're meeting friends, etc. Just say, no, I'm going cold turkey on sugar. Because it's in everything, right? We're so used to it. We're so used to putting that stuff into our bodies. And regardless of whether it's just calories in versus calories out, that results in weight loss. And we know that it does impact weight loss, and that's the greatest factor in it. I can still guarantee that your body will change if you cut out refined carbohydrates and ultra-processed sugar for 6 months, right? Now, you can say, but sure, that's because they're in a calorie deficit because they cut out the sugar. Maybe it is. Try it. And I guarantee other health markers will improve. I guarantee other health markers would improve. But maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think that dietitians and trainers aren't promoting on social media processed food consumption, junk food consumption. How are they doing it exactly? It's not always overt. They might not explicitly tell you to eat more sugar. They're not going to be like, guys, this week I really want to encourage you to up your refined carbohydrates and processed sugar intake. I want you to eat more donuts. I want you to eat more cake. They're not going to do that, but they do it in a much more subtle, almost subliminal way. They'll share stories on Instagram. This is a really good example. And they'll show them eating sweets or snacks or going to McDonald's or eating a Mars bar or biscuits or an energy drink. They'll put a post on a reel or a TikTok or an or Instagram, whatever, and they'll talk about how a Kit Kat's the same amount of calories as a banana. So ask if, maybe you should have a Kit Kat instead of a banana. If it makes you happy, have the Kit Kat. Don't eat the banana. But the answer is no. You shouldn't have the Kit Kat. You're just in case you're wondering, they're not the same thing. They don't produce the same benefits. They don't provide the same nutrients. Kit Kats are junk. They're called junk for a reason because there's not much good in them. There's no value in them. A banana is full of nutrients, full of fiber. There's so many benefits to eating a banana over a Kit Kat. It could take a whole show in itself. But this messaging is becoming so prevalent in the fitness and nutrition world. In order to be liked, followed, and gain more market leverage, I guess influencers are telling sugar-addicted people what they want to hear. They're tickling their ears with sweet nothings. You get it? Sweet nothings, because we're talking about sugar. We don't even need the joke of the week because that was so good. But do they care about your long-term health? Do they care if you develop type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, based upon your nutritional choices that you have developed under their influence, under their guidance, under their okay? And don't get me wrong, right? The buck stops with every individual. You can look into their claims. You can assess what I'm saying and weigh up which path you want to follow. The influencer isn't forcing me or you to have that chocolate bar in their mouth. I'm doing it. You're doing it. You have to decide for you and for your family, for your kids. And that doesn't also evade the fact that we're all influencing each other. We're all mirroring each other. If you see someone eating ice cream in public and devouring it, or eating a McDonald's in public, it's sending a message to everybody around them. It's promoting that. It's promoting that food. It's promoting that brand even as well. If you say McDonald's, you big M, right? That's telling someone that you're behind that. It's also telling them that you're hungry. It's also telling them that you're consuming a lot of calories. If you see someone smoking in public, it's sending a message that is okay, that behavior is okay. If you see someone picking up litter or littering, that's sending the message that this is okay. This is standard procedure. You and I are influencers in some shape or form, whether we realize it or not every single day. We're all mirroring each other. You don't need to have kids to look around and realize that you're influencing your kids, just not by telling them what you're telling them, but just your lifestyle, how you're living, what you're eating, how you're talking, what you're saying, how short your temper is, your mannerisms, all those things. We're mirroring each other. And again, back to 2020, 2021, even 2022 probably. If you saw someone wearing a mask, it was sending a message that you need to wear a mask too. That there's a reason to do this, that you should be scared and you should wear a mask. But if you walked into a shop without a mask and you saw someone else without one on, it sent a signal back and forth that, oh, you don't need one. He's not wearing one, so I'm not going to wear one. And this wasn't due to the convincing, ironclad scientific reasoning of mask wearing, that people were wearing masks. It was peer pressure. It was societal conformity and a good bit of fear, let's be honest. And this leads us to the next point. I'm not saying any of this about sugar or refined carbohydrates or junk food to pretend like I never eat it. If you know me at all, you know that I love ice cream, I love chocolate, I love all things sweet. I have some from time to time. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I don't, and that I have this perfect diet that sometimes people think personal trainers do. But don't confuse this with hypocrisy. Don't get it twisted. The point is, I'm not gonna go out of my way to promote it or tell you about the crap that I eat and recommend that you do the same. It would be like me sharing videos or photos of smoking a cigar if I had one from time to time. And even if I did smoke a cigar a few times a year, or even a few times a week, is it going to be productive to share this with others if I know they struggle with a smoking addiction? Is that what smokers need to see? Probably not. It's probably maybe going to influence them pick up cigarettes or vape or do whatever. Similarly, do those who are obese, overweight, and addicted to sugar need to see someone who is in a position of authority and influence sharing themselves eating crap? Not only eating crap, but showing that they're intentionally eating crap. They've actually put it in their shop. They've written it down in their little shopping list and put it into their weekly shop. Do they need any encouragement to indulge in junk food? Do you need someone telling you that you can lose weight by eating sandwiches? Whenever we know, like, there's not all types of bread, but there's a lot of types of bread are terrible for your health. They're so processed, it's beyond the joke. Do they need enticement like a little child? The answer, of course, is no. I don't need that sort of messaging. I'm pretty sure you don't too if you're predisposed to sugar addiction. But if you're currently listening to this and you're overweight and you know that you're addicted to junk food and sugar, please don't take this as an attack from me. I've just said that I'm as predisposed to eating that sort of stuff as anybody else. But the reason for this episode is because I want better for you. I expect better for you, and I think you should expect better from yourself. I don't just want to help you to get to a healthier weight. I want to help you get better overall health. And not being fat isn't necessarily overall health. I wonder if part of the problem, excuse me, I wonder if part of the problem, the fact that some influencers that I'm talking about, PTs, dietitians, nutritionists, etc., is because they're genetically predisposed to being in shape or being in better shape without really having to try too hard. It's almost like they've been getting away with it their whole life because they genetically tend to hold more muscle, store less fat, means they're leaner, means they can get away with eating more crap and not putting on weight or getting fat. And you know the type of people I'm talking about. We all know somebody who seems to eat terribly, eating junk, eating biscuits, never seems to have a good diet around you, but they're still in pretty good shape, right? Imagine they added in a little bit of training as well. But the big problem I can see, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, maybe it's because I have kids, or maybe it's because I have loads of older clients as well, whatever the reason, there are other health issues out there that are caused by poor diet other than obesity. There are hidden health issues. One of the big ones is cancer, obviously, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, high blood pressure. That's just a few. Excuse me again. Voice is starting to run out. But many of these can be helped or even reversed through diet. Just diet. Just cutting out the crap, cutting out the processed sugar, refined carbohydrates. This is one of the biggest contributors to a lot of these diseases. But according to these influencers, you can still eat all of the above. You can stay within your calorie allowance and not get fat. So who cares? You're healthy. You're a healthy weight. You're not overweight. So who cares? Well, I care. That's why I'm doing this podcast. And that's kind of why I'm a trainer. But I'm starting to care more and more because the trend is concerning. More and more nutritionists, dietitians are telling the same stories. More personal trainers are discussing the same narrative. Stay within your calories. Eat whatever you want is their line. Drink alcohol if you want to. Eat cake, chocolate, biscuits, and other junk if you want to. Stay within your calories. You'll be grand. And by the way, just to reiterate, if you do want to do any of the above, it's none of my business. Unless you're a client of mine, in which case it's a lot of my business, literally. But eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, smoke whatever you want. I don't care. I believe in autonomy. I believe in personal sovereignty. I believe in personal responsibility. As long as you don't harm or hurt anybody else, go nuts. It's none of my business. But if you start smoking crap beside me and polluting my lungs, if you start dropping needles near my property because you're up to some drug taking, then we have a big problem. A big problem. and there's repercussions basically for that, and I fully support the full weight of the law when it comes to littering and just harming other people. That's not good. But before I digress any further, I'm not saying that junk food should be banned or taxed or anything else. I think you and I should have the right to eat it. I'm going to defend your right to eat it, right? But I want transparency and I want honesty around it. There's no point smoking and pretending it's not bad for you. We know it's terrible for you. We know putting chemicals into your lungs is not a good idea under any circumstances. My issue is with people in positions of authority and influence trying to convince you that it's okay to eat crap and it's actually healthy. It's part of a healthy lifestyle, a balanced, healthy lifestyle. They should be more honest about it, and they should be more honest with you about it. I also don't think that they should show off that they're indulging in junk food and drinks or promoting it on social media, denying the reality of what it does to the body negatively. I don't know their motive. Maybe they want more likes. Maybe they want more followers. Maybe they didn't get enough validation or affirmations growing up and they want you to like them. So they tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. I don't know. They know. They know personally. They know in their heart. But it's the dishonesty and possibly even the naivety around it that I have an issue with. So if you're a PT, you're a dietitian, or you're a nutritionist, and you're encouraging your clients or your followers to eat crap because everyone does it and you do it, I strongly suggest you reevaluate your message and think about what you're encouraging. Expect more from people. And this is the most polite way I can put it. I could put it stronger, but that won't do anyone any good. It would just sound probably cooler and probably got some swear words in too, but it's a family show and all that. But that's all I've got. That's my thoughts. Have a great weekend. Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback, if you have any thoughts, if you have any criticisms, if you have any questions, you can email me at info@crossfunctionfitness.co.uk. And don't forget to train today so you can be stronger tomorrow.